Behind every successful endeavor in life is a relationship built on trust. Welcome to The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relationships. A podcast focused on helping you nurture healthy relationships. Join thought leader and world-renowned expert on relationship and empowerment coaching, Dr. Patty Ann, and her special guests every week for insightful and meaningful conversations filled with great takeaways that will help you build healthier business partnerships and happier romantic relationships. Are you ready to restore trust and enrich the significant relationships in your life? The Trust Doctor, Dr. Patty Ann, is in.
Welcome to today's podcast episode of The Trust Doctor, restoring trust and enriching significant relationships. And I have an incredible woman that is going to share all her wisdom with you. But before I even introduce her, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast. So this woman is described as a combination, the baby that Brene Brown and Tony Robbins would have. Can you picture that? Brene Brown, an incredible powerhouse, and Tony Robbins. If they had a baby, that's who this guest would be. So she is a powerhouse of energy, exuding unconditional love and light. But she will tell you herself that she is also stunningly direct, getting straight to the heart of what's real and what's true. And I know that for a fact because she told me before we recorded and started that she's from Brooklyn, and us Brooklyn girls do not mess around. So she is also, you know what, you'll be able to learn more about her. You don't need me to read her bio. So I would like everybody to buckle up, because Tracy Litt is about to take us for a ride. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to hang out.
Oh, I am delighted to have you. So, Tracy, why don't you just share with us where you are today and how you got there, and we'll take it from there.
Oh, okay. So let me condense. So where I am today, I am the mother to 3 daughters who are teenagers, 2 out of the house, 1 on her way out.
And you'll live to tell the tale.
I have lived to tell a tale, and I will say older children are the best. Teenagers are amazing. The older they get, I find the depth of the relationship is more and more satiating than any.
I will tell you, Tracy, though, a lot of people find the teenage years, especially with girls, really difficult.
Oh, let me not miscommunicate. There were many times where it was truly hard, right? But those times are part of the process.
Sure.
I haven't met, including myself, anybody, I haven't met a teenager, right, that doesn't experience growth because it's such a crazy time of life. But as they get older, your ability to relate to them and them to relate to you and to make a profound impact because they're cognitively capable and they become more and more available and they want to hear you, is just the best. So I am a mother to teenage daughters, and I've lived to tell the tale, which is funny. My husband has a T-shirt that says, "I'm a teenage daughter survivor."
My point.
Yeah,
my
exactly.
Point. Yeah.
And I am the founder and CEO of the Litt Factor, and we are a 7-figure human growth and potential company that specifically focuses on the inner work for visionary women leaders and entrepreneurs. So what that means is you come to work with us when you are ready to truly go through your healing, growth, and expansion journey so that you can become the next level version of yourself, easily allowing you to stand in the reality of the next level of your vision and your impact and your wealth and the amazing emotions of empowerment that you can spend the hours of your day feeling. So that's what we do. And how I got here, by doing every lick of work I give my clients. By feeling my fear, loving my fear, thinking intentionally, listening to that call in my soul when I was in corporate America, like telling like you can't die like this, like this is not enough. And I took the leap, and here I am.
Great. So it's so interesting you talk about fear, because I was working with a client yesterday, and he was talking about, the growth and, peeling the layers of the onion. And then I said, he's like, well, why should I think I can have a better life? Then why should I be any different? And I'm like, well, it sounds to me like you're afraid to even take a look. And he was like, what? And he got it because it resonated with him emotionally, right? Because a lot of the coaching work you do, I do, any good coach does, has to do with what you feel, not necessarily what you think, and many times the disconnect. So tell us how you started your journey in corporate America, right? Like it can be soul sucking. So so tell us a little bit about that. Or if you want to even go back further, when you were a little girl in Brooklyn, I don't know, the process of how you found yourself.
That's a process that's ongoing. And I think it's really important that everyone listening gets the truth. There is no destination. And that's why there's always a beautiful ing on the end of everything, right? It's growing and healing and expanding and evolving. So I am, now probably my clients joke around, I'm like the 37th version of myself at this point. But the point is that we're never done. And that's a beautiful thing.
You know what? Go back to there's no destination, and we'll edit it.
Okay.
What you're saying.
Got it. There is no destination. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. That is the scientific truth. And in that, we recognize that our purpose doesn't live outside of us. Our purpose is to come inside and do the work, is to heal, is to grow, and is to expand. So I am by no stretch of the imagination at a destination. I'm just in this version of me right now, and we're going to keep rolling with that. So I entered corporate America because of the first part of my awakening, which was when I was in what I thought was going to be the relationship of my life. And then I found myself as a single mother with an 8-month-old baby and no job and no college education going.
Wait, I'm confused just for 1 second. Help me with the timeline. So you were in a relationship with the person that you thought was Mr. Wonderful, clearly wasn't. And you were in corporate America and then.
Nope. This is how I got into corporate America.
Okay. So you were in a relationship, you weren't working at the time.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. So I was in a relationship and it didn't last. And it was my first awakening. It was my first wake up call to whose life is this? And what is happening inside of me that is tolerating so much less than I am worth? And that was my first eye opener to my not enoughness and to work that I had to do. And it was that moment, that was actually the first time that my higher self came through to me and loved me, but called me out, right? Like, if you keep doing what you're doing, this is the life you're going to have. Are you available for this?
Okay. So how did you do that, right? For the people that are listening, you had your first awakening.
Yeah.
Right. And you got in touch with your higher self. Were you somebody coaching you?
No,
Were you in self-development? So how'd that,
Yeah.
mushrooms, what?
Yeah. No. So, there's so much I want to say right now. So let me just center into this. Everyone has a higher self because every one of us is connected to the oneness, to the greater intelligence, to the greater good. Every one of us are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I say that and I say it repetitively because it's an imperative principle that you have to embrace. No, you don't have to. That if you want to get where you want to go and experience life through a far more conscious, lighter, more enjoyable lens, you will embrace this principle. And in doing so, you're opening yourself to be connected with. So when it was a specific night where my daughter was crying. My ex had already moved out of the house. We had a couple weeks left until it was purchased. I was living with an air mattress as a couch. My daughter is screaming. She didn't like to sleep, normal, beautiful baby, just screaming her face off. And I was having one of those moments. I cannot listen to this anymore. I shut the monitor off. I could still hear her through the other side of the house. So I walked into the garage to get some reprieve. And it's like I walked into the garage and I shut the door and I just crumbled to the floor, just crumbled to the floor, in that I wasn't consciously praying or anything because I didn't do that then, but it was like, oh God, please help me. And I just cried my eyes out, which I'd like to invite all the listeners. The world will be a better place when everyone cries more. So I just cried and snot bubbled and cried until I was laying on the floor, fetal position, so quiet. And in that quietness, in that stillness, my higher self came to me, not like an actual voice. It was like a hit, like a feeling in my gut. And the message felt like, whose life is this? How did you allow this? You're either going to stay here or you're going to wake up right now, extract the lessons from this moment, and do something much better for you and that little girl in there. And that's what it was, just a natural. And that's the beautiful thing when you really, really allow yourself to go on a journey and you are committed to your own healing, growth, and expansion. You connect back to your body, you live with more spaciousness, you slow down a little bit, you understand that there is something so much bigger than you at play. So you can stop just being all human, which is where all of our fear and lack and scarcity and struggle and push and comparison and judgment and all this low level stuff lives. And you can allow yourself to experience life more in your spiritual self.
Okay, so that is, wow. Thank you for sharing that. So when you said earlier, the world would be a better place if everybody cried. Expand upon that, please.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed through all the beautiful people I've served, predominantly women, is a repression and suppression of our emotions. So when I say cry, I literally mean cry. And I encompass all emotional expression when I make a statement like that, right? When we cry more, when we feel our feelings, right? We've all been raised and indoctrinated into such, I don't have time for that, move on. You don't want to see that wound. You don't want to deal with that. You don't want to bring that back up. So we avoid and we hide and we ignore and we buffer and we drink and we shop and we complain and we do all of these things that are so low level and so disempowering, but we're doing it in an effort to not feel, when in actual fact, the best thing you can do for yourself, mind, body, spirit, soul, is to let it up and let it out. To feel whatever needs to be felt until it no longer needs to be felt. And crying is the only problem with crying is the fact that we judge it as wrong, that we immediately think, oh, someone's crying, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And then we go into fix it mode, which is another behavior that is interfering with our greatness. And it's just like, no, what if we all cried more? What if we were all just so, in recognition that we're connected and that we're held and that our emotions are part of our human expression, and just let it go.
And when you let it go, what do you experience?
Oh, so good. Can they see us? Are our listeners?
Yeah, no, hopefully.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Okay. I just capture that face again. Everybody just look at this like, you experience, first thing you experience, a full release of anything you were holding on tension in your body. Shoulders drop, your stomach, this feeling, this white knuckle life feeling starts to go away. You start to see with new eyes and hear with new ears. Your energetic resonance rises because you're finally not holding on to stuff. All of that, for anyone that is listening that is really into, growth and manifestation, co-creating, and just like, amazing way creating relationships, right? Forget trust, like that's your play space, right, Patty? And like,
yep.
You want to trust? Oh, well, you have to feel your feelings in order to trust. You can't actually be fully connected to yourself without feeling your feelings. So that's just like the tip of the iceberg of the benefits of letting it up and out.
So I love everything you're saying. So when you feel your feelings and you release them, it's cathartic, right? It's like a cleanse.
Yes.
For your mind and soul.
Yes.
And what's interesting is because so much work, the whole relationship and trust, right? It all starts with ourselves. Yes. You can't trust yourself. You don't love yourself. It's not gonna show up in the world. And yet, what I think the paradigm shift is starting to happen in this crazy time that we're living in, where we used to avoid, deny. Let me correct that. We used to try to avoid, deny, and ignore feelings, but the body doesn't forget. Right. So that's why so much illness is wrapped around stress and food we eat. I'm convinced of that. Mm-hmm. But so much of my coaching has to do with emotional intelligence as well, right? And relationship skills with business partners and entrepreneurs and all that stuff. And we used to say, be able to control your emotions. And I've changed that word to manage your emotion. Because when you control something, you're holding on to it, but you can manage it if you allow yourself to feel it, acknowledge it, label it, go into it, and then counterintuitively, you can let it go. It no longer controls you or manages you, because emotions that are repressed get amplified, right? That's in a nutshell the essence behind road rage, behind people flipping out over nothing kind of thing. And, in terms of, I was thinking when you were saying crying, I don't know, I think of that, the movie, No Crying in Baseball, right? But it's almost like there's no crying in life.
Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting about emotions is that, and you've done a lot of work with grief and trauma, personal growth, is extreme emotions have a short lifespan. They can only exist for 5 to 7 minutes. So it's almost like, well, what are you afraid of? It's not going to kill you. Not experiencing it.
Well, yeah. So here's two things that I want to touch on. First, I agree with you, and I use the same in my teachings. I don't use the word control for anything, because even we do. I'm known for thought work. You don't control your thoughts. That's not a thing, because anything control is one of those things that we need to slowly start to let go of in our culture at large. The word, the behavior, all of it. And when you said, what are you afraid of? You're not going to die from it. That's the interesting thing about fear and biology. And what I've heard from so many beautiful, like you and me, like powerhouse women, right? And inside of something I teach called the elevation experience, I do a day about emotion. We do release work. And part of the release work is screaming, and it always ends up screaming and crying. And that's beautiful. And the number one answer to what's blocking you from feeling your feelings, if I start crying, I'll never stop. I'm afraid I will never stop, which is not true at all.
Which is all the more reason why you need to do it if you think.
Right. And the thing to know biologically is your system actually does think you might die. That's the interesting part of really, really understanding the art of change, the art of different, the art of more, recognizing whether it's you going from I suppress my feelings to out here, which is I feel my feelings freely and easily, right? Whenever they come up. It could be I'm going from my corporate job to building a business. It could be I've never used my voice to being someone who gets her needs met, right? Whatever you are here in your familiarity, and anything outside of that more different change, your mind, body, and system actually read that as she might actually die. So even though you or I are holding space and we're coaching and we're nurturing and here we go and let's do this and I've got you, inside each human being's wiring is oh my God, I actually do think I'll die if I cry, if I do that Facebook Live, if I tell my spouse what I need, if I leave that marriage, I haven't lost a client yet, and there's been thousands of them. Right? So just be aware of that, because that, oh my God, am I going to die, feels so real. And it's not. It's simply like, congratulations, you have a beautifully functioning wiring system. And now let's do the work to move through that.
Okay. So I'm going to push back on you a little bit.
Please. I love it.
Maybe I misunderstood.
Okay.
And I'm going back into my mind about fear and high performance athletes and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So my understanding is that show up the same exact way in our brain. If you took a functional MRI, the picture looks exactly the same. So you feel the emotion, biochemistry is the same. The difference is how you label it.
Okay.
What you call it.
Yep. Okay.
So if fear shows up, and it shows up in my brain the same way as anxiety, I would think I'm going to die from the anxiety as well.
You would, if that's your narrative. And here's my perspective of what I've seen. Anxiety is actually a symptom or flavor of fear.
Sure.
Right. So fear and anxiety aren't necessarily the same in that way.
It's a continuum, if you will.
Yeah, sure. I mean, all of the sympathetic states, ways of being, right? Fear, comparison, anxiety, all of those things. So what's the question? Because I think this is a really important thing to nail down.
I think people might think in their brain that they'll die.
Yep.
But the neuroscience proves differently. And can you separate the two?
Okay, so hold on. Let's go into this a little bit. This is so good. So of course they won't die. Of course, of course. However, we have to talk about the body, because the brain doesn't actually function in isolation. And this is one of the detriments of mindset work or thought work or CBT that doesn't include the body. and the
The mind and
connection.
the base of the brain's connected to the top of the spinal cord.
Correct.
Only the AMA has separated mind and body. Before that, it was all connected.
1,000%. However, the masses, which is why great podcasts like this go, oh, what? Oh, that's not right. No, that's not accurate. We as a culture basically operate as if our heads are not connected to our bodies, and you just leave your body at home. You just run around like a chicken with your head cut off. That is literally our little beautiful culture. And if there was an alien that was watching over us, I say this all the time, Patty, and I'm always like, if there was an alien checking us out, they would call in and be like, I'm sorry, where are all these people going? Where are they in a rush to? Why are they running? And what's the rush? And is somebody must be giving out an award for the most stressed out, because these people are competing for that.
Off the charts.
Right?
Off the
charts. So to keep that in mind also, and when we're talking about that fear, the anxiety, and what's going on, right? It's essentially the amygdala is getting triggered, right? Whether it's directly from the limbic system, from the hypothalamus, or it's from the prefrontal cortex, right? Into the hippocampus, then going, yep, she's gonna die. Right. Trigger the fear response, right? Then the fear response, it becomes not just a mind thing, it's the mind and body. So because as you know, but it's important for the listeners to know, our nervous system, our vagus nerve that's running from the brainstem all the way down through our body, all of these things are intertwined. So when we talk about feeling our feelings and fear is induced, the reason it's being induced isn't because it's danger, as in you might die from this, which is helpful fear, like I'm at the beach, I want to go in the water. Oh, look, there's a fin in the water. Not so much. I'm not going to go in the water. That's helpful fear. That's danger.
Right.
Fear that we're talking about.
Well, that's a survival fear, right? That's the primal amygdala.
That's the primal fear. But here's the beauty of this. There's no difference in the type of fear that is felt in terms of it's all primal. And whether you are, it's that analogy of the shark, or it's in, trusting yourself or feeling your feelings, that primal brain fear response hasn't evolved at all.
Right.
So it's your responsibility as the being that's directing all of this gorgeousness, right? Your mind, your body, all of these things, to say, wait a second, I'm going to understand my fear response more comprehensively, so that I don't believe the thoughts then my system's giving me going, don't feel your feelings. You're going to feel your feelings forever. You're never going to stop crying. Nobody likes a crybaby. All of the old narratives start to come in. You have to direct your mind. If not, you will stay stuck where you are, maybe making a couple steps forward in progress, but always reverting back.
Right. So what you're describing is, when you get triggered, that ancient survival, fight, flight, fear gets kicked in, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be able to find a way to not allow the amygdala to hijack the prefrontal cortex that quiets the vagus nerve, right? That calms you, that allows you to be rational. So how do you do that short of, we work with this all the time, but I want the listeners to hear your perspective, short of, first, Socrates, know thyself, meaning know your triggers. Mm-hmm. So sooner I know something, right? If I have that self-awareness, thin is danger, or a person seems to trigger me in a conversation, how do you quiet that fear so the amygdala doesn't hijack logical thinking, executive functioning of your brain?
Patty Ann, you're talking my language. I'm so excited. Okay.
There you go.
So a couple things. The first thing is you don't necessarily prevent the amygdala from being activated.
You can't.
It's what correct.
It's ancient.
Yes. It's about how aware are you of yourself and your body, and how aware are you to then take the actions to help diffuse and love that fear. So I have a TED Talk on this topic. Yeah. So I have a TED Talk on this topic that I want to invite all your listeners to go to, because I literally walk through the answer to that question. So how do I deal with this, right? Like in action form and practical application. It's called Dear Fear, It's Not You, It's Me. Mm-hmm. Because the other thing is that fear's gotten this bad rap the whole time, and that makes me sad. Fear's just doing its job. It's like, dude, I am here to make sure you breathe, okay? So I am winning over here in the survival column. I'm not supposed to know what your dreams are. I'm not supposed to be the function that fulfills all of your heart's desires. You got to figure that out. And in order to do that, you, me, all of us must recognize and shift the power dynamic from fear being more powerful than us to us, in fact, which is the scientific truth, being more powerful than our fear, more powerful than our mind, more powerful than our nervous system.
Okay, when you say us being the scientific truth, being more powerful than that, what do you mean by that? Like,
meaning that it
spotlight
is
that.
scientifically proven that we are actually more powerful than our fear when we
When you say,
understand.
okay, but when you say we are, what do you mean by we?
We,
What, like,
me,
what is
you,
it
I'm
about?
sorry, me, you, any of us humans, all of us together.
So our humanity is stronger than our fear? Is that what you're saying?
Our individual inner power is stronger than our fear.
And where does the inner power come from?
Being taught by someone like me on the fact that it's literally already living inside of you, just no one ever taught you how to do it. This isn't even like me having to put anything in you like a microchip. This is literally like, oh, wait a minute. If I use my breathing and my respiration like that, if I understand how to play with my regulation of my body, if I fully understand consciousness and that my thoughts are options and not facts, like what, really? Okay, tell me more about that, right? And if I understand that the ways of moving through fear that we've been taught have truly been wrong, right? And not because anyone else was wrong, it's just we know new things all the time. And until when we know better, we do better, that like old adage, which is so true, we know so much more now. So to be able to say, okay, when fear arrives on the scene, right? Which is never an if, it's always a when.
When?
Always. And to take a whole different approach, because the old way of dealing with fear, which is very masculine in energy also, is very like, do it anyway, push through, overcome, right? It doesn't work.
War.
Right, correct. It doesn't work. That actually gives the fear a stronger power position.
It gives it oxygen.
Yeah. What I want us to all learn how to do is appreciate it, right? Right off the bat. If fear has arrived, it's an indication that you're growing and expanding. I mean, think about the context of your work for the listeners that are here that come and listen for you and all your beautiful guests, right? You're in a relationship, right? Something that feels scary as you're starting to trust because you're starting to trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
To your biology, that is no different of a fear moment than the shark in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So to understand that and go, but wait a second, I'm understanding the difference. Okay, that's not danger. Fear is a different category. As I'm working through my trust, it makes sense. Oh, my heart's beating. I feel really afraid. I'm a little bit sweaty. Okay. Move is in that recognition that fear has arrived.
Mm-hmm.
and appreciate it. Like, hi, okay. One of the things that
what are you telling me?
Yeah, like I've had a little invisible desk on my desk since I started this journey. I learned about fear and really delved into fear and risk expertise because when I was in corporate and had the calling to do what I do now, right? Which I didn't even know was a thing. I started researching all these different modalities. I just knew I wanted to help. And when I came across the coaching, hypnotherapy, like this whole world, I immediately said, that's it, I'm in, I'm doing this. And like on a Monday, I was in and I was ready to give my notice and tell everyone. And on Tuesday, nope, I was totally paralyzed. And on Wednesday, I was pumped again. And on Thursday, I was in paralyzing self-doubt and back and forth. 2 years, Patty Ann. I wasted 2 years, which are now not a waste because it gave me the gift of what I do for all my clients, which is I'm going to just teach you how to circumvent all of that and not spend 2 years that way. Mm-hmm. Because I was so like, but how could I want it so bad and then be paralyzed? How could I feel so excited and sure, right? Just like a listener who's doing something fabulous for their relationship, but then be totally like, I can't do this. I can't do this.
Mm-hmm. So two things. One thing that you said that I work with all the time in all my different relationship work, corporate, entrepreneurial, and personal, because when you're in your comfort zone, it feels great, but you're not growing. I'll be a little dramatic and say you're sort of kind of dying.
Oh no, I'm with you. I'll take your drama all the way. I'm with you.
Okay.
If you are not growing, you are dying. And there actually is no gray on that one.
Right. So, and that's why the whole conversation about retirement is so messed up. Unless you're going to a different phase of your life, but like retire to do what? Die faster? Die, like I don't get that. So much of the the being connected to our emotions. Like, it's exactly what you're saying. You just use a little bit of language of the work I do. Like, feel it. What are you feeling? And when I'm working with clients, I'll stop and I'm like, wait a minute, what did you say? I'm like, how come I'm feel like they are so disconnected from their feeling that I know how I'm feeling it, but it's not my feeling. I'm connected to them. So I'll feel it and I'll share that with them. And they're like, oh my God, you're a witch. I'm like, exactly. But the issue is, because I'm in the space, they are so disconnected from who they are and what they feel. And it's so much easier to cognitively go with the logic, because logic and rationality is safe. You're playing it safe. Right. So now let me bring it back to what you said earlier about the crying, going into the garage, right? Melting. So you have to have a breakdown before you can have a breakthrough, because that's when you know that everything in the past that worked for you is no longer working. That's why you're breaking down. And therein lies the opportunity. Because if you miss it, all that stuff's going to come back, because it's protecting you from what? From yourself.
So beautiful. And let me add to this. And here's the fun part. The beauty in what you just said, if you miss it, that comes down to how willing are you to notice it, right? So if we play out that exact scene that happened for me, there could have also been a very easy trajectory where it was like, I cried in the garage, I laid on the floor, I heard some like messages, but I was like, nope. I'm gonna still squeeze round holes into square pegs over here. Don't mind me.
Good. I'm good, Di. I'm good. Slow, death by 1,000 cuts here.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I see the red flags. They're smacking me in the face. It's fine. I'll just write, because that would be an indication that I wasn't ready. I wasn't willing. I didn't want to experience what I was going to have to experience. And this is not a judgment. It's neither wrong or right. It's to notice that you have to be willing to receive, right?
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's at a different level of consciousness. Everyone's at a different level of interest. Some of you are going to listen to this conversation and your life will be changed as a result. Some of you will listen and have to listen a few more times. Some of you will listen and be like, no, I don't want to listen to this right now. Not because it's not helpful, but because you're not ready yet.
Not ready.
And that's okay. Totally okay.
Well, and that speaks to, people say all the time, I've heard something. And then all of a sudden I heard something. Like you heard it, right? You're at the right space, the right time in your life. And a lot of what you're saying answers the questions for people that are stuck in unhappy relationships, unhappy jobs, everything under the umbrella of unhappy or not working for me. You become stuck because the discomfort, even if it feels uncomfortable, and it's the belief, so let's talk about belief. The belief that you can be more, do more, have more, you don't own yet. So you keep yourself, because who's responsible for our lives? Hello, we are, right? But we do love to blame everybody else. It's my partner's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's the location's fault. It's the timing of the world. It's, all that kind of stuff. No, hello, take a look at that selfie.
Yeah.
But we don't believe either that the gain is worth the pain, or we're worth it. So speak to that.
Oh, I love it. So, so many things. Our brains are wired to show us loss and not gain. So it's important to just start there as like a kind of like when I was talking about understanding their fear in your biology, there are certain foundations of understanding not you as Patty Ann or me as Tracy and all of our programming and other things, but just like our humanness, there's some really critical things to understand. And one of those things is your mind always will show you loss and not gain, because the mind, again, is wired for survival. It is literally like, quote, paid to find the problem. So all day it's like, save her. Oh, that's a loss.
Well, that's why we remember the negative, right? Like somebody could have done a million things for you, but you remember that one time they pissed you off. That's true with parents, right? They could have done wonderful things, but you remember that time they yelled at you. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So it's important to just recognize that, because then it also lets you go, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, because none of us need to be fixed. That's not how we do any internal work. We are all experiencing what we need to experience in the moment in which we are experiencing it, right? Okay. So now I have to ask you, what was the second part of what you asked? Because my mind went to the loss gain and then I lost the other part of the question.
People don't believe.
Oh, thank you. About in their worth. Yes. So This is actually where my book came from. This whole concept. It's called Worthy Human, because we all have worth wounds. Okay. So when I say worth, we can interchange it with enoughness, right? Wholeness, worthiness. It's all the same thing. And we all have worth wounds, even if you have never had trauma, like big trauma in your life, or even the words I'm saying, she's like, what are you saying? If you are a human being listening to this podcast, you have wounds to heal.
Sure.
And those wounds always connect back to some form or fashion of worthiness or lack of worthiness. I wasn't enough because, right? I didn't matter because I wasn't significant enough. If I would have mattered, right? So it's just important to understand that. So if working on and healing through your worth wounds supports the identity, the self-image that you need to have to see yourself as someone who is enough, is whole, right? Who deserves this gorgeous relationship, first and foremost with themselves, as you know and speak to, right? And then with anyone that actually deserves to share their space and their energy, right? But it becomes a belief in self coupled with a true embracing of the inherent truth that you are actually already whole, you are actually already worthy, and you deserve nothing less than everything you desire. We've been raised and indoctrinated into a world because of our upbringing, because of religion at large, because of other things we've believed as a culture, that we have to earn it. You must XYZ or you don't deserve it. That is a fallacy. Our birthright as spiritual beings having a human experience is you woke up today, you're enough. You're enough. You're whole, you're worthy, right? Now the wounds are the things that get to be healed because those are the lies that you're currently believing, that are in your programming, that are in your belief structure, that are making you question. Like mine forever was I wasn't smart enough. Like my not smart enough ran so deep and so pervasive that I would skip periods in high school. I didn't go to college because I legitimately was like, it's not even worth it. I'm not smart enough. Right? I got into a lot of trouble because that's what I actually perceived about myself till I started doing the work, went through it. Now I'm like, of course, like it doesn't even occur to me now. I'm like, I'm so smart. I'm so smart, right? So just recognizing that we have that work to do. And when you work through that, and you also, even if you just jumped on my train for a minute, I was like, okay, fine, I'll listen to this woman. I'm enough. I'm enough now, like right now. I'm worthy right now. What does that change for you? How different is your day when you aren't spending half of it playing the I'm not enough game?
Well, what is so profound is that what we tell ourselves, our brain doesn't know the difference between truth, fact, or fiction. So if we tell ourselves we're not enough, if we tell ourselves we're not smart, our brain will believe that, and then it will manifest itself. So
yeah. Which is all why you've got to get your mind magic on and you've got to be working on yourself, right? Like this is exactly the point. If you are not working on yourself, well, two things. You will either start to work on yourself by catalyst or by choice. My hope for the world is it's by choice because I've been in the catalyst position and it sucks, right? Many of us have. And and to your point earlier, you mentioned something about you'll get the lesson again. You will. If you don't wake up the first time, it's just going to hurt more. That's just the way it is, right? Until you're like,
because insult to injury. You think I would have figured this out the first time. So there you go. So it reinforces it. So go back. Gosh, I'm hesitating to ask this question, but you mentioned religion, and it felt like what role does it have in society with this? Is it the sacrifice? Is it the I'm not a religious person.
Yeah, I'm not either. So I'm Jewish, and I was born and raised Jewish from more of a traditional standpoint than a like go to temple, follow the guides standpoint. So I mention religion because number one, it's always an important distinction when I speak to we're a spiritual being having a human experience. It has nothing to do with religion. One has nothing to do with the other.
Well, I noticed you use the word spiritual.
Yeah, so it's important to say that. And when we're talking about worth in any capacity, we have to talk about religion, not the religion part of the religion, but inside every religion is a depth of oppression that is it's so terrible and so detrimental. And I have watched and served and helped and witnessed some of the most powerful women leaders that you would all know, right? And the depth of the inner that they are dealing with because they were raised Catholic, right? Or they were raised Protestant, or they were raised, Jewish, like whatever the religion is, Religion without oppression is a beautiful thing. Religion with oppression is a problem.
Okay,
Because
so you're talking about the main monotheistic religions, though, right? I would imagine Buddhism.
yep.
Does it have the same oppression?
No.
Oh, okay, all
No,
right.
because
I'm sorry, I interrupted
yeah,
you
no,
about
no,
what
no, no,
we're
no,
talking about.
100%. Well, the main part of it. So yes, the monotheism, most masses related
Mhm.
religions, all are woven with a depth of detrimental oppression. You will be worthy when, if you don't do X, Y, Z, you are going to hell.
Okay, so it's earning your place in heaven, if you will.
Yes, and earning your worth as a human being. That is the messaging of oppression.
Hmm.
You are nothing until you XYZ. You must earn your way to XYZ.
Yeah,
Don't
clearly,
be fully
I wasn't listening carefully enough, so I didn't get
No,
that.
I didn't, but I didn't. This isn't personal for me. This is what I have observed: client after client after client after client after client after client after client, and the awakenings that go on. When I was like, wait a minute, there is no sin. Let me clear this up for you. You were whole the whole time. This is the part of religion that is detrimental. And if we can create a world that is religion without oppression, what a gorgeous place it will be.
Some people, it's interesting. I'm getting uncomfortable because I don't want to go into the whole religion
Okay,
thing.
yeah, fair.
But some people, it has changed their life for the better.
Yeah.
It has saved them because they found a high, I don't know what the right way to say it. It's brought them an inner peace that without the religion.
Oh, no, I love it. Okay. So first of all, I want to compliment you because I love that you were just able to be like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable. Like that's also something we all need to do more like, oh, I'm getting uncomfortable right now because you're so connected to yourself that you were able to say it and you just articulated it. Like that was just gorgeous. It was such a gorgeous thing to witness. Like really so good.
Oh, okay.
And I'm with you. And that's why I like to separate not the religion because religion is gorgeous and it creates belief for people and it gives us something greater than us. And it does, God, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. That's why when I say religion, this is not a comment or attack or a negative on religion. It's about, can we go in and pull out the oppressive nature, the oppressive messaging that lives
feels
inside
right.
of that.
That feels right. Because when I was younger, I think I would have been all in with you. But maybe as the Grim Reaper is catching up to me. So I'm like, all right, let me rethink this whole thing here. And I've had some podcasts with some very devout, name the religion, right? Yeah. And it works for them. So I'm like, all right, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So I get that it's almost like religion. And what you're saying reminds me of what's the expression? Don't let schooling get in the way of your education.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
All right. So take us from going all over the place here. So you're a single mom with an 8-month-old living on your air mattress as couch, something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Where did you go? How'd you get into corporate? Like, what did you do?
Yeah. So get
the hell out.
Right, exactly. Well, in that beautiful awakening garage story I told you, it felt so clear for me in terms of, yep, I am not going back and being who I've been. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be where I've been because I am committed. And in so many ways, she saved me, my daughter, and she recently graduated.
Oh, people say that all the time about having their first child. Now, were you working in New York at the time?
No, I was in Florida.
Yes, you weren't doing that horrible commute, like, the cattle cars I call the train.
No, that was my father's commute, and that's how we became Floridians. He used to commute an hour and 20 minutes every day from Jersey to New York to work, and that's what literally made us Floridians. He hit his 20 years, which was his pension threshold.
Sure.
And he was like, and we're out of here.
It's funny, every now, this is all pre-COVID, right? I love New York City. I love to go into the city. But when I go in and if I'm on the train like 10 or 11 o'clock at night and I look around and I think to myself, man, babe, there's a better way. Because you could tell these people are coming in from and my heart breaks for them, but it's their choice.
I agree. It is. So when I, came out of that awakening and I was like, okay, so I need a new career right now, right? So I had owned a company prior to having my daughter called As You Wish. I was doing event planning.
Oh.
Mitzvahs, weddings, corporate events. It was
so
great.
A lot of work though. That's a ton of work. Like you're always on.
And that's exactly why I couldn't continue it because as a single mother, it's nights and weekends predominantly. And I wasn't willing to give up my time with her. So I said to myself, okay, what can I do? Like my skill set, right? I didn't have a college education. I'm phenomenal at sales. I'm phenomenal at working with people. I'm phenomenal at organization. Like what can I do that's made me so successful in my event planning business, but have banker's hours?
Right, transferable skills. Yeah.
Yep. And the idea of like human resources, recruitment, stuff like that kind of came into awareness. And then I threw out a few like lines to some people I know. I'm looking for work, blah, blah, blah. Someone responded, oh my God, I have a friend who just started a company. They're looking for recruiters. So go interview with them. I ended up interviewing with them, getting the job. I then did an hour and 15-minute commute every single day back and forth because Taylor wasn't old enough to put in preschool yet because she was still a baby. And thankfully, I had one of my dear friends who had a daughter the same age as Taylor who lived down the street from me. And for months, I would wake up extra early, feed her breakfast, drop her off at Andrea's house. She would spend the day there. I would drive home. I'd get back like 12 hours later. I'd pick her up. We'd spend an hour together, like makes me emotional still to this day. Spend an hour together, put her to bed, go back, do it again and again and again and again. Yeah. And loved it because it wasn't this, the soul sucking part came later. I felt so like I'm doing it. I'm creating. I was in creation mode. I was creating a life for she and I. This was about great. What can I do? How can I do it? And it was a commission-based job. So it was one of those like, we're going to give you an advance, which back it was $30,000 a year, which we can't do anything for that. But I was like, okay, I can do this. And before you knew it, I was top in sales month over month over month. Then I became promoted. Then I became a sales director. Then I was managing all these different things. And that's how I ended up in HR. I got recruited out of that job by one of the clients I used to place people for. And then I ended up in elder care. And then now I was 12 years in the business by the time I landed in my last corporate job as a VP of HR for a healthcare company that specialized in skilled nursing facilities. And I love old people. So I was like, anything I can do. I think that old people are so underrated in our society. Started working in that sector.
Well, that's our culture, right? Other cultures, they're revered.
Yeah. I mean, as they should be,
Yeah.
So, there was so much growth and so much determination, and dropping her off and going and doing and just being like, I am doing this. And it ended up being extremely fruitful and extremely successful. Then she started preschool. We got a great apartment in Boca. We're doing all these things. And then I was in that VP job and I was like, okay, like this, I have so much more to give to our world than what I'm able to give in this little space that I'm in here. And that's when then I started being like, I can't, like this every day. I can't. And at that point I was working at home. Do you want to talk about people thinking you're crazy? I'm running everything from my house. I travel when I feel like it or not at all. I am making great money. And I was like, I'm going to leave all this now to go try that thing that just feels right. And
well, you were so disconnected from your purpose. You were living somebody else's life.
Totally. And that never works. And that's the interesting thing about even being in, when I leaped out of corporate America, everybody around me is like, but isn't this what we're all supposed to want? Like you did it. You have a kid and you're thriving and you own a house and you have a car and you make six figures, whatever the hell when that became important. And and people love you and you have a VP, like none of it mattered to me. And when I left, everybody was like, are you, I think you might be. I was like, no, but you know what? The way we were raised and what we were told was like a bill of goods. And it is not like, okay, once I get this point and I've got 2.5 kids and a white picket fence and everything and I have insurance, then I should be happy now, right? Isn't like that what they told me? And I did all the things, but 75% of America is miserable.
So it's so interesting so I'll say the kids today, right? 30, I'll even give you into your 40, but say the 20s and 30-year-olds. I'm sort of kind of chuckling. Like my generation overall has done a horrible job raising. A lot of what's going on is epic parenting failure. I'm going to be totally honest.
Yes.
Epic parenting failure. The kid doesn't fail. The first time the kid doesn't get his way is when he doesn't get admitted into his college of choice. But Johnny's been a genius, but you pick the teacher, you pick the coach, you bully the teacher to give the kids the 89, the 90, so he gets the A or she gets the A or whatever. And you get a trophy just for showing up, even if your team's it's okay. And it's not okay. Yeah. But so the entitlement is through the roof. right? And the sense of it's all about me.
Mm-hmm.
So so I could say a lot of negative things, but what I sort of kind of like watching, and I see my kids doing this too from a distance, is so I just heard on TV with COVID, like radically shifting the whole work from home, right?
Mm-hmm.
As working moms, I have 4 children. Women have been begging to work from home since we entered the workforce. I worked for myself because I knew when I had my 4th kid, the best boss in the world wasn't going to let me raise my kid the way I wanted to and work. And also, I didn't feel like working hard and have somebody else using my brains to get rich. But that's a different conversation. But it's the truth. Like, wait, why should I do that to make you? No, we're not doing that. Anyway, it was probably my kids more than anything that made me, want to work for myself. I'm probably also unemployable because you couldn't be my boss. I'd be horrible to manage, but because you can't manage me. But anyway, so I was, the companies that I consult with and coach with, a lot of the old white men are like, how are we going to get these kids back to the office? I said, why do you need them back in the office? Well, productivity. I said, but the research shows that productivity is better. Well, we need it for the culture. So anytime you hear any reason, just insert the word control. We want to control, right?
Yeah.
So like a whole middle level management would be wiped out, but we're adults. It's like, it blows my mind. So I was watching the news and I'm hearing this CEO of a big company, everybody listening would know. And again, I do think there's a little too much entitlement going on, but I'm sort of kind of chuckling because he's like, I have been begging. Now, this is the CEO of a big company. I have been begging the people to come back to work. I don't know what else I can do. Like he's literally saying that. And he goes, and my people are telling me, don't push too hard. It's a different generation and we're going to have to learn to adapt to it. And I do think they're right. Like, why should I have to get up, commute to sit in an office where I don't talk to anybody anyway? And oh, by the way, when's the last time these guys had 2 kids they were worried about? They had to catch a train. Many of them go from their penthouse downstairs or they have their driver. Like you change a working woman's life by letting her work from home. Like just think this is so mundane, Tracy, but you're getting ready to go to work and the toilet starts to leak, right? Guess what? Now you don't have to call in sick and make an excuse because, you'll say your car breaks down before you say you're home because your kid was sick, at least when we were younger, right? I mean, I used to coach women, don't say you're staying home because your kid's sick. Come up with any other excuse because it will be okay until it's not okay.
Yeah. Wow.
So now you can work. You call the plumber's coming at 2:00. You hear, excuse me, you go on mute, stop the video, you let the plumber in, you go back. Like, I think that's, so I love the transformation and the paradigm shift that's going on. And I think what serves women well, serves the world well, right?
Amen
and
to that.
Serves our family well. And I'm like, because for a while there when COVID was starting to open up again, I'm like, nope, they're coming back. Look, they're coming back. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think the media wants us to think people are coming back, but I don't know. What's your take on it?
Well, I love what you're saying. And actually, when COVID came on the scene, I was doing a lot of just lives. I was doing pro bono stuff, all kinds of stuff. And what I was explaining it as is like the year when we thought it was only going to be a year, but we'll call it this anyway. The year that the universe shook the earth like a snow globe. That is what I am saying COVID is, right? It was literally like, because I believe, right, greater intelligence, oneness, everything is happening for highest good, even when it feels bad. And it literally was like, okay, let's shake this earth up. And then let's see what falls out, what changes.
Come to their senses.
Right. Who's going to wake up? What's going to change? What's going to try to stay the same? Because external circumstance must drive the massive change that we need for evolutionary purposes, right? And so many things weren't working. So what a gift. I think that the whole concept and everything you're sharing is such a gift because there would be no other way to mass test how productive and effective working from home actually is, because it is. How many actual hours, minutes people get back into their lives, allowing them to feel more supported, more seen, more heard, right? Which creates more loyalty, which then creates more productivity. In the role I was in human resources, it was specifically focused on acquisition and retention, right? And when we're talking about retention, I used to watch companies and so many times, like, God, I wish I was just the actual decision maker here, because I would watch companies go invest in the most ridiculous things, thinking this will make them more productive. this will generate more loyalty. This will be the tipping point for our retention and our lowered attrition. And none of it ever had to do with the actual human, their growth, their nurturing. It was all like, we got a new tech system, or we got a new login system, or we got a new this, and we'll have a team meeting, we'll have a team outing. Like that, nobody cares. That's not what people actually want. So I think this is a massive gift. It is not going anywhere. There will be companies that have hybrid models, and there will be companies that are all remote. And I think it's a gift to our society.
It's so interesting you're saying that, because I'm thinking of two companies. So I do a lot of consulting too. It's all relationship skills that drive the bottom line. And they're saying the employees don't care about more money. They don't care, like they're at a certain level. And there's nothing we can do. And I'm like, well, gross oversimplification. Do you know what floats their boat? Do you know? I'm like, how do you make the assignment? So in other words, I'm saying you're trying to motivate them. Clearly it's not working. You have to find out what inspires them. And they look at me, it's like, it's not genius. Like you're using an old paradigm. You're using an old model for a new paradigm. Of course, you have to change how you create the culture. You don't save a ton of money on your real estate. Every quarter have a real, offsite where you bring someone like you in, someone like me in, right?
Yes.
Not the lead guy, doesn't know anything, not at the guy's country club. You go to Cancun, you go to Cabo, you go wherever you want to go, have a and guess what? You'll see people, real relationships will form, and then they'll go back to work, and your culture problem takes care of itself, but it just blows my mind. So two more questions. One is, out of all the wisdom you've learned throughout your life, and Lord knows there's plenty here, what's the one most important thing you want people to know?
A big question. Outside of the comment I already made that you are already whole and worthy, because that has to be there, is that you can actually have in your lived experience anything that you desire. Like actually, whatever you desire, you can only desire because it's already for you. You wouldn't be able to conceive of it. Your imagination wouldn't be there with it if it wasn't already yours.
Oh, I love that. I hope everybody takes that to heart. Last question. What's the last book you reread and why?
Reread. Woo. Okay.
Got to throw a curveball in there.
I was going to say, I know the one I'm reading right now is so good, but okay, reread. So I have the one I'm reading now is Bliss Brain by Dawson Church. I have to give that a plug. So fabulous. Okay. But the reread, the last time I reread was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh, I was just referring him to somebody yesterday. Okay, and why?
Because it is profound in understanding what it takes to really change.
Well, it's what we talked about too, the whole mind, body.
Yeah. I mean, the way that he brings work in, he's been a huge mentor for me. It's one of those books that is I have it so earmarked. The pages are torn at this point. Pen, I still to this day, I'm a book buyer. I need to touch it. I need to feel it, smell it, do things with it. So yeah, that book is the most used.
Give the title again.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Great. Okay. So Tracy, where can people find out more about you? Because I know people are going to be Googling you like crazy. So where do you want to send them?
Thank you. TheLittFactor.com is our website, and it's LITT. Thanks, Dad, for the best last name on the planet. Turned it into a business. So right. TheLittFactor.com, and all of our resources, the book, the TED Talk, everything you can do is on there.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So Tracy, thank you so much. This was absolutely incredible. I feel so fortunate to have had you as a guest today. And that concludes today's podcast episode of The Trust Doctor, Restoring Trust and Enriching Significant Relationships. And as promised, Tracy took us for a ride. So make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Until next time.
Once again, we've concluded another great episode of The Trust Doctor with Dr. Patty Ann. Tune in next week for more insights and advice on how you can create, nurture, and sustain healthy relationships. To find out more about the podcast, visit drpattyann.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share. Until next time.